The subject or course of compressible flow and propulsion has two main topics. One is compressible flow and the second one is propulsion. The compressible flow will be discussed in the beginning lectures and propulsion will be discussed in the end. So the compressible flow is concerned with the causes and effects arising from the motion of compressible fluids, particularly gases. Compressible fluids are the fluids whose bulk modulus is much higher than the bulk modulus of incompressible fluids. The compressible flow, or another title, is gas dynamics. It is a branch of more general subject of fluid dynamics or fluid mechanics. In third year, the students study fluid mechanics too. The focus in that course is mostly on the incompressible flow. In this subject, compressible fluids are considered, and the definition of compressible flow is the flow which involves significant changes in density, and the changes in density are encountered in devices which involve the flow of gases at very high speeds. For the theoretical background, for theoretical development and equations, the concepts of fluid dynamics and thermodynamics are important, and the concepts of fluid dynamics and thermodynamics is utilized for developing equations for the compressible flow. The analysis of flow problems is based on three fundamental principles. One is conservation of mass, second one is principle of Newton's second law, and the third one is conservation of energy. We review the three equations. The conservation of mass equation or continuity equation has several forms. One form is integral form and other common form is differential form. The two forms, integral and differential, can be simplified and brought into simplified relations. So this equation is continuity equation in integral form, which is obtained from Reynolds transport theorem. In Reynolds transport theorem, if the students recall, there are three terms. One is the total change, that is changes in the system, then change with time in the control volume, and changes of property due to inflow and outflow. Since the mass of the specific fluid or system is constant, so the left hand side is 0. On the right hand side, the first term is related to the type of process, whether it is steady or unsteady. If the process or flow is steady, the first term on the right hand side becomes 0. This means that there is no change in mass of fluid within the control volume with passage of time. So we are left with only one term. This equation or this term can also be simplified if we assume that the flow is one dimensional. If V is constant throughout the cross section, suppose at the inlet the V is same at the entire surface, we can bring this V out of the integral sign. Similarly, if V is perpendicular to the inlet or outlet surface, the normal dot n is not required. In that case, if velocity is constant at the cross section and velocity is perpendicular to the area, then the equation is simplified and we simply get summation rho AB equal to 0. If the control volume has only one section for inlet and one section for outlet, the equation is further simplified and we get rho AB out equal to rho AB in, or rho 1 A1 V1 equal to rho 2 A2 V2. This equation, simple equation rho AB equal to constant, is for steady one-dimensional fluid flow. Now we can have the differential form of the steady one-dimensional continuity equation. In the later part of the course, we will be needing the differential form of the continuity equation for steady one-dimensional flow. We can obtain the differential form by simply differentiating m dot equal to rho AB, and then we divide with mass. We get a differential equation d rho over rho plus dA over A plus dV over V equal to 0. So this is our first governing equation for the compressible fluid flow. Then second important equation is momentum equation, which is based on Newton's second law of motion. According to this equation, time rate of change of momentum of a fluid mass equals the net force exerted on it. F equal to d mv over dt. Since m is constant, we can bring m out of the differential sign. We will get F equal to m dv over dt, and dv over dt can be replaced with a, which is acceleration. For the momentum equation, we write the integral form using the Reynolds transport theorem. The total change in momentum of the fluid mass is equal to change of momentum of fluid within the control volume with time plus momentum entering and leaving the control volume as a result of mass flow. Again, this equation can be simplified if the flow is steady and the flow is also one-dimensional. If flow is steady, the first term on the right hand side will become 0, and if the flow is one-dimensional, we will simply get m dot V out minus V in. Rho A V will become mass flow rate, and there is another V, so this V will be V out minus V in for one inlet and one outlet. So simplified momentum equation is summation F equal to m dot V out minus V in. The forces can be pressure force and friction force. The pressure force on the inlet section is P1 E1, and pressure force on the outlet section is P2 A2, and frictional force is FF. So this is the simplified form of the momentum equation. The third important equation is energy equation, and energy equation is obtained from the equation of the first law of thermodynamics. In the first law of thermodynamics equation, there are three terms. One is heat, second one is work, and the third one is the change in energy. We can obtain the integral form of the energy equation. The Q will be written as delta Q over dt. This is the combined integral and differential form. Delta Q over dt equal to delta W over dt, and the change in energy is written in two components using Reynolds transport theorem. The changes in energy of the fluid mass is equal to changes in energy of the fluid within the control volume and the energy coming in and going out through the control surface. This integral equation can be again simplified. We assume the steady in the mean flow and one-dimensional form. We also divide with mass. This equation. So delta Q, capital Q divided by delta T divided by mass flow rate will give this small q. Dou W over dou T will be small w. This work includes the shaft work, and it also includes the work due to stresses. So shaft work is separated and it is written as Ws. The work due to stresses is combined with this small e. Work due to stresses is work due to pressure force. So this pressure is combined in this energy. This E includes kinetic energy, which is V square over 2g. It includes potential energy, which is Z, and this E includes internal energy. So internal energy plus work due to stresses will give enthalpy. H is equal to u plus PV or u plus P over rho. So for steady one-dimensional case, this is the steady flow energy equation. So these three governing equations will be utilized in all the topics, whether the flow is isentropic, non-isentropic. These three equations will be continuously used. Next topic is sonic velocity. Sonic velocity is the important quantity for the compressible flow topic. To understand sonic velocity, suppose there is a fluid medium, and within the fluid medium a disturbance is created. The disturbance results in a region of compressed molecules, and these compressed molecules travel by the compression process, by the colliding process. They form a wave, and this wave has a certain speed. The speed at which the disturbance is propagated through the medium is called the wave speed. The speed of the wave, the speed of the disturbance, the speed due to disturbance depends on the type of medium in which the wave is moving. It depends on the thermodynamic state, and it is also function of strength of the wave. If the disturbance is of small amplitude, then the speed of wave is only characteristic of medium and its state. The sound waves are weak waves, weak pressure pulses, and these sound waves travel with the sonic velocity. The speed of the sound is also termed as sonic velocity. Now consider a long constant area tube filled with fluid and having a piston at one end. To understand the sonic speed, to derive relations for the sonic speed, we consider a long tube with piston at one end. The fluid is initially at rest. The piston moves, for example, in the left direction. As the piston moves, it disturbs the stationary fluid. The particles, the fluid adjacent to the piston moves, the velocity of that fluid increases, it becomes dV, the pressure is P plus dP, and density is rho plus d rho. Up to some region, the effect of the piston motion is observed, and the point or the edge up to which the effect of the piston motion is observed is wavefront. This wavefront will have some velocity, and that velocity is velocity of sound. After this wavefront, the fluid region is unaffected. It does not have any velocity. V is 0. Pressure is same as before. Density is same as before. So this wavefront will travel, and it will have speed of v. Initially it will be here, and after a few milliseconds it will move, and it will move ahead in the flow direction. This is the pressure plot. Up to this region, up to wavefront, the pressure is relatively higher. It is P plus dP, and after wavefront the pressure is P. For the analysis, for deriving the relation for the sound velocity or the velocity of the wavefront, we use a control volume. Choose a control volume with the wavefront, and we assume an observer which is moving with the control volume. The control volume is moving because the wavefront is moving, and there is an observer attached to the control volume. So observer is also moving. Now the fluid on the left hand side will have velocity v equal to a. From the observer point of view, the fluid will be coming towards the control volume. It will be moving towards the right, and from the observer point of view, the fluid is leaving from the left. The velocity in the left section is a minus d. We apply the conservation of mass equation. In conservation of mass equation, we have mass flow rate. So mass flow rate is rho multiplied by velocity and multiplied by area. Since area is constant of the tube, the area is cancelled. So rho multiplied by small a. Rho is density, small a is velocity. This rho a is the mass flow rate per unit area at the inlet. And rho plus d rho a minus dv is the mass flow rate per unit area at the outlet of the control valve. We simplify and the two differential terms are cancelled and we are left with four terms. Rho a cancels and we get a relation for dv in terms of velocity of sound and density. We also use the momentum equation for the same control volume. Momentum equation includes forces. So forces here are pressure force and friction force. For the shear force or friction force, we should have a sufficient area. This control volume chosen has a small surface area. The wavefront is thin, so surface area is thin. So we neglect the friction force. So pressure force at the inlet, pressure force at the outlet, and mass flow rate. Rho, capital A is area, small a is sonic velocity. After simplifying, we get equation number 2. By solving 1 and 2, we get a square equal to dp over d rho. dp over d rho is not unique, it depends on the type of process. The pressure change versus divided by density change depends on the type of process. We are assuming during the process of the motion of control volume there is no heat transfer, there is no friction. We assume that the process is isentropic. So a square is written as dava p over dava rho with subscript s. This means the velocity of sound is dava p over dava rho under isentropic conditions. The sonic velocity can also be expressed also in terms of bulk or volume modulus. The symbol used is EV. Bulk modulus is pressure change divided by the fractional specific volume change, or fractional change in pressure divided by fractional change in density. And there is a definition of bulk modulus based on isentropic conditions. So using the definition of bulk modulus in terms of pressure and density and using the result of a square equal to dp over d rho, we get a square equal to ev over rho. We can compare two different fluids, for example liquid and gas. Gas, for example, air, and water is a liquid. So density of water is much higher than air, about 1000 times. The bulk modulus of water is even more higher. So the velocity of sound in water is more when compared to air. If the fluid is truly incompressible or more incompressible, the value of velocity of sound is higher. The above relation a square equal to dp over d rho or a square equal to ev over rho, these are general relations, whether the fluid or gas is ideal or not. For the ideal or perfect gas, we can further simplify. We can write an alternate relation. For the isentropic process, P V gamma equal to constant or P equal to rho gamma constant. After differentiation, this is the result, and after simplification and using the definition of basic relation of density, basic relation of velocity of sound dava p over dava rho. By using the basic relation a square equal to dava p over dava rho s and the differential form of the isentropic relation, we get a square equal to gamma RT or a equal to under root gamma RT. So for perfect gas, if we know gamma and we know the temperature, we can find the velocity of sound. The important dimensionless parameter for the compressible flow is Mach number, m equal to v over a, velocity of the fluid divided by velocity of sound. If the velocity is less than local speed of sound, m is less than 1, subsonic flow, and if v is greater than a, then it is supersonic. If v is exactly a, then Mach number is equal to 1. To further understand the differences coming due to type of flow, whether it is subsonic, supersonic or sonic, we consider an example. Suppose there is a point source or a disturbing element which is at some location within the fluid medium. Suppose this is the location, and the disturbing element is continuously emitting waves. It is continuously emitting the disturbances waves. It is continuously emitting, but for the simplicity we only consider the waves which are emitted after 1 second, and we consider the total time span to be 3 seconds. So the wave which is emitted at t equal to 0, it reaches the wavefront of that wave, that disturbing wave reaches at a distance of 3a. The wave which was emitted at t equal to 0, the wavefront of that wave is at a distance of 3a from the initial location. A is velocity of sound. The wavefront will travel with velocity of sound, and the distance travelled is 3a in 3 seconds. The wave which is emitted at t equal to 1 will travel a distance. The wavefront of that wave will have distance to a from the initial position. Similarly, the wave which is emitted at t equal to 2, in remaining 1 second, it will reach up to a distance. The wavefront will reach up to a distance of a. So this is the snapshot of the wavefronts at t equal to 3. 3 waves were emitted at an interval of 1, and the wavefront position after 3 seconds is shown. It is in the form of concentric circles. In this example, the disturbing element is not moving, it is stationary. So the value of Mach number is equal to 0. M is v over a. There is disturbance, there is motion of wave, so a is non-zero. But since the fluid is not moving, the disturbing element is not moving, the value of v is 0. So Mach number is equal to 0. Next, consider the case when the disturbing element is moving towards left and the velocity is a over 2, that is Mach number is equal to 0.5 in the subsonic region. The disturbing element moves and it is continuously emitting waves. The wave which is emitted at t equal to 0, in 3 seconds it reaches up to here. This is the wavefront location after 3 seconds of the wave which was emitted at t equal to 0. Then after 1 second the disturbing element reaches at location 1. When it reaches location 1, it emits another wave, and after remaining 2 seconds, that is after total t equal to 3, this is the location of the wavefront. Then after 1 second, the location of the location of disturbing element is at 2, and in remaining 1 second it reaches up to this point. This is the wavefront of the wave emitted at t equal to 2, and these 3 wavefronts are the snapshot at t equal to 3. In the subsonic flow, suppose there is an external observer, external device. The external observer will feel the motion of the disturbing element in advance. Since the wavefront is ahead of the disturbing element, the external observer, external object will sense that some disturbing element is moving towards itself. Since the wavefront is ahead, when this external person will come within the wavefront region, it will feel the presence of the disturbing element. The third case is Mach number equal to 1. The velocity of velocity of disturbing element and velocity of sound both are equal. This is the snapshot of the wavefront at t equal to 3. Similar to the previous cases, the disturbing point starts from 0. Suppose within 3 seconds the disturbing particle reaches from 0 to 3. The wavefront will also travel the same distance. This is the wavefront and this is the location of the disturbing point. So disturbing point is at the same location as the wavefront. At t equal to 1, the wave is emitted, and after 2 seconds the distance traveled is 2a, and within remaining 2 seconds the disturbing point from 1 reaches to 3. Similarly, the wave emitted after reaching 2, this is the wavefront and this is the final location of the disturbing point. So location of the disturbing point, disturbing element and wavefront are same. If there is some external observer, he or she will not know in advance that some disturbance is moving, or some equipment or device is moving towards itself. The fourth case is of supersonic flow, supersonic motion. Here the velocity of the disturbance v is greater than a velocity of sound. The wavefronts combine to form a cone with the disturbance at the apex. A conical region is formed in this case, and this is called Mach cone. Within the cone, the motion of the disturbance is sensed or felt, and outside of the Mach cone, the presence of the motion of the disturbance is not sensed, and that region is called zone of silence. Within Mach cone, zone of action; out of Mach cone, zone of silence. The disturbing element initially from 0 starts, and after 3 seconds it is at 3. The wavefront of the disturbance emitted at t equal to 0 is this circle. This means the distance travelled by the wavefront is less, and the distance travelled by the object itself, disturbing object, is more. When the disturbing object reaches at 1, it emits another wave. This is the wavefront after remaining 2 seconds, and from 1 the object itself reaches at 3. So the location of the object itself is ahead, is outside of the waveform, since it is moving with supersonic speed. Any external object, external person will not know that the disturbance is moving. It will know, the external object, external fluid will not know in advance that the disturbance is moving towards itself. So in this case of supersonic flow, this is the reason that the shocks occur when the fluid is moving with very high speed and some object suddenly comes in front. The fluid cannot adjust smoothly. In the subsonic flow, the fluid can adjust smoothly, but in the supersonic flow, the fluid does not adjust smoothly and a shock occurs. The sudden changes in property occur. In the subsonic flow, the property changes are gradual, but in supersonic flow, the changes are rapid. We can determine the angle of the cone. The half angle of the cone is mu. This is called Mach angle. Mach angle is equal to A divided by V, and A divided by V is 1 over m. M is Mach number. For the calculation of mu, we can simply calculate the distances from 0 to 3. The distance travelled is 3v. T is equal to 3 and v is velocity of the object. So distance travelled is 3v. This will be the hypotenuse of the right angle triangle. If we join this 0 with the tangent, so hypotenuse will be 3v. And from 0 to this perpendicular, this distance is 3a. So 3a divided by 3v is sine mu, which gives 1 over m.